Welcome to the KMTRADERS channel. We are looking to analyze the pound to the US dollar. We're going to look at our previous analysis and just take it down from last week's analysis. Okay, so we're just on the daily time frame, and as we can see, we've got a very standard textbook trade. So what I mean by this is we have our upwards trend line, and then for us to enter exactly, we wait for a break and then we enter on a retest. So we can see that price went up like this, etc. So made some divergence. So this would be our divergence here, RSI divergence. Price came down for a break and then the retest. So the retest event is essentially the price coming back to test the trend line, which is in purple, and then it ultimately confirms that we are aiming towards the downside. Okay, so if I just get rid of that, we'll go ahead and check the lower time frames. So let me just get rid of that. Okay, so looking at where we predicted from the last video, we managed to see the downfall as we said from the 13th of May. The entry point would have been exactly around this point here. The reason why is because I did mention that for me to enter a trade, I needed to see some sort of retest at one point or one type of key zone area. So originally I said I wanted it to see a retest in this zone here, so a bottom zone level here, but we didn't get that. As we can see, this 4-hourly candle, it essentially breaks through and closes past this key level zone as well. So what I would have looked at here is to have waited for the retest at this point. So we see this straight downwards momentum, and then we get this a retest and then the push down. So we could see this retest if we take it down to the 1 hour. So the push was here. So we got the push of so this was the 4-hour candle. It pushed down and it went past this blue key zone area, which is one of my key zones that I've previously drawn out. And it's good to see, as we say, it holding as the price rejects from this point here. We also have resistance forming here, so resistance, this becoming support. So all these points where price rejects and becomes support or resistance is good, where is a good indicator that the line is valid for future predictions. So a good entry point for that following week, for the last week, would have been somewhere around this key zone area here at the 1.2967. So I perhaps took a trade, would have made the trade here, and as you can see, almost 0% drawdown. So drawdown means if price goes against you in any shape or form, but fortunately this didn't. So in terms of prediction, we did say that we was gonna roughly see the endpoint here. I always predict towards the next 100 pip move. However, we saw this stretch all the way down even further to roughly about 250 pips. So like I said, that was a very good call. So in terms of, so let me just remove this. So in terms of this week, we can see that in the 4-hourly we are overextended. So we are waiting for some sort of reversal right now. So we need to find our key levels again from this level here. So I'll mark it in blue, and our next key level here, which is in blue as well. So as we can see, this gap is quite large, so I'm going to revert back and see if we can find any more potential key levels. So what I'll do is look back. This is how I prefer to take the analysis backwards. So what I look for is very key movements, so very key changes in the market. So for example, this one would qualify, and then what I would look to do is to see if it did find some support or resistance. So we did find support here multiple times before it became invalid and became resistance, like so. So as we can see, we did get some support, then it turned to a resistance, support, resistance, and then support. So this line would be valid towards my analysis for future references. So this line is at the 1.274. So what I would be looking at for this week is a potential reverse at some point. Now this doesn't mean I'm looking for the reverse exactly here. It could overextend to here, all the way down here, and then find the reverse up. But we need to find confirmation from the RSI and the EMAs for us to be convinced that we have changed the momentum. So we have changed reverse completely, the upside. So what I do in my type of videos, I always pinpoint the type of direction I'm looking for, and draw out all possible scenarios. So for example, in terms of the shorts, the sellers winning, I highly think that this is unlikely, but if it was to come down here, I would be looking for some sort of if it was to continue passing the zone that I just drew at the 1.274, if it was to come down to this next key level, for me to buy from this level, I would want to see a retest like this again, and then a push upwards, passing the retest like little head from this point. So that would be a key entry point, and then I would be taking my profits from this point here, and etc. The other possible scenario is if we get, I'll draw it in another color actually, do it in red. So another possible scenario is that from this point onwards, we do find some sort of support, and we get a retest, and then like I said, the same thing again, we get the push upwards, and we're looking for that push to suppress this bump here, so this sort of push upwards and then the rejection downwards. So I'm looking basically to get a double bottom at a key level, and for price to break the structure of that pinpoint here. So in terms of take profit zones, we could look for something like this. Ultimately coming to around this point here. So that would be one possible scenario, and the next one would be roughly here. So with all, like I say, with all of my analysis, I do tend to say always check your own strategy and always check your own analysis before comparing with mine. If you do take my analysis as gospel, make sure you are using appropriate risk management. Like I said, I've just drawn this stop losses out, not to scale by any means. Specific targets and entries will be provided in my group. However, these are not to scale. So in terms of projections and to take profit zones, I would look to aim for around this area here, and the reason being is because this was the previous low, and this overextension could give us the momentum to drive it upwards. So I'm going to just play it safe and just see if we can get take profits from this point here. However, if it does extend above this dramatically, remember to always move your stop losses to break even and to lock in your pips as price moves upwards. So that's all for this video on the pound USD. We'll see how it works out in the week, but this will be an interesting week in terms of other pairs that I will be covering. But yeah, so thank you very much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.